We are officially live on Facebook for the Thursday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. We are not doing the JWB Rental Liquor Property of the Week. We are talking to the team at JWB of how they built a world-class talent destination. You got to see it to believe it. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. Today, my beloved co-host is not here. He is off with his show mistress, which is a golf trip. But we do have our usual, always with us, always magnificent community manager, Maddison. Say hello, Maddison.
Hello, everybody.
And I'm going to do my best to intro everybody one by one here. But first off, I'm going to talk about the closing coordinator of the JWB real estate companies. This is one of the hardest things to do at the company, is to just get over that hump of getting that property into your portfolio. She carries it well. I've recently gone through this myself, and she's the only one that gets coffee here because coffee is for closers. Welcome, Hannah, to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great to have you on board. And up next, when we ask what she does for a living, she thinks holistically about the business and how everything fits together. She is the making sure that the things behind the scenes are happening. I've been told that she is one of the greatest cheerleaders of the culture and of the show, because she's given me some good advice personally on how to do this going forward. She is the operations manager for JWB Real Estate Companies. Welcome to the show, Tarah.
Hey, y'all.
And the first person that I met here at JWB, the first person that I had the joy to start working with back then, she had a sales hat on, but she was also a content creator. She has been with the inception and organization and absolutely crucial to the success of the Not Your Average Investor Show since before, when we were going to call it the Rental Property Investor or something much worse show.
Many names.
Many names. That was like a 3-week process. She's the marketing supervisor. She is one of my favorite people that I have ever worked with. Kate, welcome to the show.
Oh, Pablo, thank you. What a wild ride it has been, but so fun.
It's been fun. It's been fun. And we're gonna give her due here. We call her the Magnificent around here. She came here from the boiling pot. What is it? From the fryer to the frying pan. She has just been bouncing around with a million different jobs, including just getting thrown on screen last minute to give you good news all day long. You know her well. You love her. She is Maddison the Magnificent, our community manager. Say hi, Maddison.
Hi, everybody.
All right. And we're going to talk to each of these ladies, each of these superstars on the JWB team, so you get a sense of what they do and what makes it all successful. But first, I want to welcome you. If you are watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, super pumped you're here. But the best way to do it is you go to nyais.com, you register, you throw it on your calendar, you join us here because this is a really, really fun experience. And you get to be part of what? You ladies know what's coming next? The roll call.
The roll call.
It's roll call time. We got the leadoff batter of the Not Your Average Investor Show, John Henning, saying good afternoon all. We got the ringmaster of the Not Your Average Investor Show community, Drew Barnhill, saying hello, everybody. We got Dean Curry, the legend of Columbus, Ohio, over there saying Kate the Great, checking in. He was just recently with us. We got the MVP of the Not Your Average Investor Show community, Lee Bishop. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all here. We got Denny Davis checking in from Germany with his Guten Tag. Guten Tag, Denny. We got the guy everybody knows, Noah Randari, saying hello, guys. Good to see you all. We got Nadeem Shah from the West Coast with his patented good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We got the patriarch and the matriarch of the first family of the Not Your Average Investor Show, Ken and Caroline Moline, saying great to see members of the team. We salute you, the Molines. We got Chris Consaga from the illustrious Hudson Valley, New York. But today he is in Crescent Beach, St. Augustine. That's a beautiful little part of the world. Northeast Florida beaches are what's up. Chris, I hope you're having a great time. Who else we got? Jennifer Galina, Tara's sister, showing up to say hi to her, to see her sister shine. Jennifer, happy to have you here. Hope you come back. Hope you come back. I hope you enjoy the experience. We got Peter James, who we haven't seen in a while, from the great Commonwealth of Virginia, saying, hail to the ebullient Pablo, vivacious Maddison, charismatic Jen, and ever so sweet Hannah. Peter James, tip of the cap to you, sir. Who else we got in here? Rosalind Riley, our regular Rosalind Riley, checking in. Good morning from Murrieta, California. Good to have you back. Rosalind. Leslie Wilson from Denver, hasn't been here for a little while. Greetings from to everybody from Denver. Leslie, great to have you back in the house with us. Always love seeing your name. We got tennis royalty out here, everybody. One of the greatest tennis players to have ever lived. Malavaya Washington, Mal Washington, also a esteemed philanthropist and famous for having appeared on the Not Your Average Investor Show community, real estate investor locally here. Good to have you, Mal. Welcome back. Who else we got? We got Joanna Batista checking in with us from the Philippines. Good to have you, Joanna. We got Roger Evans checking in from beautiful Tampa, Florida. Good to have you back, Roger. We got Gary Riley, Rosalind's husband. We're making it a family affair. Are we rivaling the Molines? You got some work to do here, but you can be the second family if you start showing up enough. Good to have you, Gary. Thanks for joining us, man. And that's it. Great little roll call today. And right after the roll call is my favorite. Did I really butcher your name? I said Malavaya. Malavaya. Oh, God damn. All right, Mal Washington. Sorry, Mal. I appreciate. I'm sorry about that. And now our favorite segment. Madison shares good news. What's the good news, Madison?
Oh, we got some good news today, and it is a testament to Tarah going above and beyond, making sure keeping everybody accountable. So as you guys know, we have some pretty awesome core values here at JWB. One of them is under promise, over deliver. So Tarah ran the numbers about a few days ago, I believe. And she was comparing the rents that we give you guys on the deal evals and the rents that we have actually collected, what the homes are renting for in 2022 so far. And we are overperforming for you guys at 12.33%. So under promise, over deliver. Thank you, Tarah, for giving me the good news to share, because I think that's awesome. So
love good news, Madison. Thanks.
We just jump right into Madison's story right now. Madison, I think that's a great way to start with one of the questions that I wanted to ask everybody, which is, what has been your biggest growth moment here at JWB?
I feel like I've had a lot of growth moments starting in January. I was talking to Kate and she was saying, I was like, so what is my job description? What do I do? And she just kind of giggled, and that made me giggle, but nervously at the same time, because I was like, oh, nothing, good. And I think that's my biggest growth moment is my day-to-day is different. It's changed a lot over the last 7 months. So really being able to go with the flow and navigate the changes and master or learn along the way. And I feel like I've learned a lot. So that's probably my biggest growth.
Yeah. I threw that one in first, right? Because we always joke around about how we've just given you something, put you on camera, and you've gone with it. And those are always these amazing growth moments, because this is a lot harder than it feels for most people, right? Most people are nervous, most people are, and you've done so well with it, which has been super, super impressive.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been
nerve-wracking, but I've enjoyed it.
It's been fun. It's been fun doing it with you. What you're also you're also an athlete, right? You've been on a bunch of teams, and you've had your own share of success. You're now on JWB. In your opinion, what's what makes a team feel successful?
I believe the leadership makes the team feel successful. Everyone knows when they've made a mistake. Having the leadership that gives you the comfortability to make mistakes, and not only doesn't give you a slap on the wrist, but they're like, okay, that didn't work, so figure it out, and almost encourages you to continue to make mistakes until you figure it out, is I think what makes it us successful. The leadership, the 4 guys, Kate has helped me grow. I think it always starts at the top and it dwindles down. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Starts at the top. And you mentioned something along the lines of allowing people to fail, right? It seems like that is a counterintuitive thing, but it almost, I see that as something that gives you ownership of your own success, right? Like if you're able to
Yeah.
make those decisions. I mean, you're pretty new. Have you been allowed to fail? Like, did they just give you the keys? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've sent some emails to the wrong people. I was in charge of sending the clients one of their emails, and the client emails go out at 9:30. And my time was set to West Coast time, not East Coast time. So for the first few times I sent emails, they were getting sent about an hour or two late. So we kind of just giggled it, fixed it, and went about. They are sent on 9:30 now. I fixed it, but not being like, they have to go out at 9:30, this, that, and the other, failing forward. That's another one of our mottos here at JWB. So you don't learn unless you fail. So you don't know what you don't know. So figuring out what you don't know and moving from there is the way to do it.
Another one of the core values that we
Mhm.
talk a lot about on the show. Maddison, I know that you weren't necessarily looking to get into real estate when you joined JWB, right? Like you got this like awesome story of your friend just kind of said, "This is a great place to work. Come on over," and you did it.
Yeah.
But your real estate education, I'm sure it happens across the team, but I've got to watch yours, right? Like, and you've learned so much in a short amount of time. Can you kind of what's been kind of your biggest takeaway, or what have you been surprised to learn about now that you've becoming basically a real estate expert? You're writing articles for the Jacksonville Journal.
Yeah.
Like what have you really learned that's opened your eyes to real estate?
Oh gosh, there's so much. I think that what I've learned is that real estate changes quick. It's a long-term investment, yes, but it changes quicker and more frequently than I had thought. Like the 20% appreciation in a year, next year could be not 20%. So kind of learning how quickly it changes has been a lot for me to learn, but I like change, so I think it's kind of cool. It keeps me on my toes. So
I love it. You are definitely one that has proven to roll with the punches, which like kind of started off with all of that. And before we bring Tarah on, what would you say? What would you say as a marketing coordinator, the way that you see your role? Kind of how do you measure success? What is the key to you feeling like you're doing a good job here?
oh gosh, I think that starts at the top again. I feel like I like to second guess myself a lot, but getting that reassurance from my manager, Kate, Greg, you, the community has kind of kept me going, and I now know that I'm on the right path and I'm doing well. So that's how I measure my success.
I love that. Let me know in the chat, do you think Maddison is doing a good job? Spoiler, she is. Maddison, it's been really, really awesome to Tarah, if you want to turn on your camera and unmute yourself. Maddison, it's been amazing to watch in this short amount of time, watch your growth and work with you so far. So thank you for leading us off. As always, jumping into the frying pan without being afraid. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
And now, self-described as one of the biggest cheerleaders on the team for the culture, for what everybody does. I, was not shy to give me some advice on the show early on at the golf tournament that I thought was really, really, really instrumental to me seeing how this can all work. Operations manager, which is a role that I greatly admire because my brain doesn't think like that. Tarah, operations manager is such like a nebulous thing, right? Like, how do you feel successful in your role? Like, how do you measure yourself by success?
Really, I measure my success by the team's success. I think that's the role of operations, really, is setting everybody else up for success. I think as a team, the way we really figure out success is always being willing to grow. And Maddison hit on it with the failing forward mentality. We always are willing to try something new, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay. We learn and grow from it. But while we're learning and growing from it, or while we're trying something new, we're measuring everything. And so just like Maddison reported in Good News today, we're constantly measuring how we're doing and trying to do better and perform for our clients and for our residents.
You know, I don't know. I know you watch the show, so you know how belovedly I speak about the data flywheel. Is the data flywheel right now? You're talking as far as like performance of employees and how people are doing. We talk a lot about the performance of properties and all those numbers and how valuable that is. Is that all under your purview, or are you more on the labor side?
A little bit of everything. The data flywheel internally and to our clients is kind of my baby. It's what I measure my own success on, but obviously my success is built on our client success. It's built on all of our team success. And it's something that I'm very proud of. Every time you say data flywheel, I get a little pitter patter in my heart. I know you love it. I love it too.
Then let's talk about it. How would when did you start raising this baby? Did you bring it up from the beginning, or did you take it over at some point?
I did not. I got the delight of taking it over. One of the things I got to do though, so I've been at the company for almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years in October. When I first started, it was a lot of Google Sheets that didn't really talk to each other. And so when I started in operations, my main role was just to manage all of those Google Sheets. Within the last 2 years, we've gotten into Salesforce, and our ability to really have a data flywheel has expanded significantly. And so now the Salesforce dashboards and reports are all my babies, and I got to develop all of those, but those only got to be developed because of everything we had tracked and measured before in Google Sheets by all of our leaders who went before me.
Talk to me about the inputs and all that stuff, right? Like how do you coordinate so many inputs for so many different variables? Is that like a regular cadence? Is everybody just reporting weekly? You know, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so everybody reports weekly. We have weekly stats that we're reporting on, weekly measurables, KPIs, key performance indicators that we're reporting on. And so we're looking at those weekly. But besides looking at those, we're really diving into them to make sure, you know, some reports sometimes change and processes change. So we're really diving into them weekly to ensure that we're reporting the correct information at all times. And so it's a lot, but everybody performs at such a high level here that it really goes off fairly seamlessly. Not everything's perfect, but really, really well.
Awesome. And I'm super pumped that it puts a smile on your face every time I mention it. Now I'm going to think of you. I'm going to think of your smile every time I mention the data file. It puts a smile on my face. You are the senior, if I'm hearing correctly, you've been here for 9 years. You are the senior member on the team in this panel, right? Like you've been here the longest. Lee's got a question about kind of the evolution. You know, he saw the group photo, showed a massive team. You know, I love looking at pictures of JWB, and I love the first time I walk into the TMM, seeing how diverse the company is, right? Like immediately it hit me that plenty of women in leadership positions. There's all sorts of demographics and colors in the room. And I find that to be really fascinating. Can you tell me a little bit about how the culture has grown in the last 9 years? How did you find it, and how has it evolved as it continues to expand?
Well, you've had, you know, all 4 boys on here before, and they've talked about, you know, back in the day when it was beer pong on the doors of the office and stuff like that. So it's certainly changed from that. I got to meet with the leadership team last Thursday, and they asked me about culture and if I thought it was the same. And they were more focusing on, you know, culture since the pandemic, because certainly that was a struggle for us, having to be away from each other and separated. But I think the culture has just gotten better, and it's getting better in the way that I always talk about love buckets. It fills the love buckets of the people that we currently have. So, you know, beer pong filled the love buckets of the late 20-year-olds that were leading the company at that time. And now we have a lot of different things that fill the love buckets of the people who are leading the company now, like, you know, our volunteer events, our lunches, our interdepartmental breakfast, lunch and learns, all those kind of things.
I love the idea of the love buckets and filling the love buckets as a culture driver, right? Like I'm reading this book on leadership, and it's this like framework of LEAP, and it's love, energy, audaciousness, and proof. And it kind of goes to what you're saying, right? Like you fill the love buckets, fills people with energy, you set these audacious goals, and you're in charge of the proof that makes it happen. I really like that. Where did you come from? Like, where does one find a world-class integrator like yourself, asking for a friend?
Well, my background's a little bit different. Kate has something very similar in her story. I went to college for education. My degree is in pre-K primary education. Taught for a couple years and just determined that the creativity I really wanted in the role wasn't something that I was absolutely able to actually complete. There are a lot more stringent things that you had to teach to. And so jumped from that into a role in a medical office, found my glass ceiling there really quickly, and then found JWB kind of on accident. My friend Laura McLogan, who is our hiring manager, posted something on Facebook, and I applied to JWB. And the main thing I was looking for was just somewhere that I could grow, that I would be challenged and I would learn something new every day and I could grow. And literally that's what I've done throughout my time at JWB. I've held a lot of different positions, and it's been something that's been invaluable to me, both professionally and personally, because I've learned so much about the things that I need to do for my own future. I mean, listening to this podcast certainly helps. Being in the walls is undeniably the best thing that's happened to me.
Man, I can echo that. Right? Like, I think the exposure to the way that JWB has been built and operates has been something that has completely changed my life and my outlook on business. What did you, before coming here, did you have an opinion on real estate as an industry, or like, did you have any kind of like preconceived notions of it or anything like that?
I always tell people when they first start in their first week, I'm lucky I get to meet with everybody in their very first day of starting with the company. And I always tell people that my first week, I had no earthly idea how much a home should cost. I barely had any idea what a car should cost. I didn't know what ROI was or any of the other terms that we use all the time. And I came home every day of that week crying to my then boyfriend, now husband, saying, I don't think they understand that I have no earthly idea what I'm doing. So I had no background in real estate really at all, other than my parents owning our primary residences. So I've just learned as I've gone.
Yeah. Is there, I mean, you come from an education background, right? Like, I think it's probably pretty important to understand all this stuff as a team. Can you kind of describe how JWB goes about educating folks so that they understand the asset class and kind of how that journey is like?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really about first understanding what their role is, right? And how that affects then it being an asset class. I think vision is the biggest thing that makes us successful in our roles individually and as a team, because the four boys take a lot of time ensuring that they have a vision and then preparing that vision to be shared with the team. They share it with the whole team in TMM, which you've gotten to be a part of, Pablo. And they continue to share the vision as it changes. And so the ability for each teammate to see what the vision is, and then it be broken down into how they affect that vision, and then rolled back up and just seeing those numbers of how they affect that vision, like having stats like Maddison shared today, is really the thing that helps us then be tied to what we're doing. And then when you're tied to seeing someone else be successful and the successes they're having in their own, whys, whether that's, saving for their children's college funds or saving up to, retire early, us being able to see our clients succeed in that is something that just makes us want to do the same things and makes us really tied to being able to be successful in our own personal investments.
Awesome. So let's dive into the TMM a little bit. I mean, I talk about the TMM all the time, right? I want to ask Leslie's questions because she's asking, and I love having Leslie back here. So she's asking if there's a book club where you all discuss motivational personal growth books together. Is there a book club these days?
There isn't one currently, Leslie. We used to have one back in the day. It wasn't quite what you were thinking, though. It was more of a let's drink wine and read something that'll either make us laugh or make us cry. But we do currently have a library at the office where anybody who has a book that they really love will go put in the library, and it's kind of just like a lending kind of thing. But Leslie, I'm open to it.
Me too. All right, tell us more about the TMM, right? Like, it's to me, that's a big driver of culture. I'd love to hear from you. Kind of, what is the thinking behind the TMM? How is it organized, and what is it?
TMM for us, so it's morphed, right? 9 years ago when I first started, it was really about holding people accountable. So every single department came up and told their how they were doing, what their successes were, and what their opportunities were. And that became very long. So we decided to shorten it and made it more about one team standing up and being able to really talk about what's happening in their department, to educate the rest of the team about what's happening in their department, but also to allow us to be able to, sometimes when you're really close to a problem or an issue, it can be really hard for you to see what the solution would be. And TMM allows us to have the people who are, arm's length away, further away, to be able to really see what's happening and ask some pointed questions that will help us continue to grow.
I love that. I love that. Drew Barnhill saying you can't see the forest for the trees. I like to say
Absolutely.
that without distance, you don't have any perspective, right? So I love that implementation. You mentioned before we bring Hannah on here, you mentioned that you've had a lot of growth moments, right? Is there one particular growth moment or one particular kind of like rite of passage that like sticks out for you?
So I've had, like you said, I've had a lot of growth moments. I think it's interesting because it's constantly been something for me. I didn't know I needed it, but I definitely now see that I need it as to be challenged and grow. I think the most recent growth moment is probably the one that I'm most proud of, but has also been the most challenging, and that's stepping into a more supervisor and manager role. It's something that I'm really proud of, and I think allows me to use a lot of my personal development. But of course, when you're dealing with other people, it becomes more challenging. So it's something that I'm very excited to see me continue to grow. I look back and I look at things like I was the second ever portfolio manager. Back then we called them client relations coordinators. I was the second one ever. It was just Lauren and I. And when I came in, Lauren was doing it all by herself. She barely had time to train me. And I came in and I saw private lending, which she was doing private lending at the time as well. That was part of the role. And I saw it and I said, oh, I can learn how to do this really quickly. I'm going to learn how to do it. And then about 6 months in, Adam said, all right, one of you needs to specifically be private lending and one of you needs to specifically be on closings. And because we were doing closings, private lending, kind of everything spread across the two of us. And I said, you know what, I haven't done closings yet, so let me try that. So I did closings and became our first ever closing coordinator. And since then have just been continued to be challenged to grow in all ways possible. And I think this new one of growing more personally than just professionally and learning more about the business has been a really cool opportunity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm gonna bring Hannah up right now if you want to take your camera on. But I just want to ask you, like, on a personal level, I managed a lot of people early in my career, and then I kind of ran from it for a long time because it's so hard. And you're kind of saying this. What's working for you right now in this transition to be a supervisor?
I think the main thing that is working for me is approaching people as people. So I'm identifying, I'm kind of weird, and I make people take the love language test and their Enneagram so I can really learn about who they are. And so that when I'm, giving you praise, I can make sure I'm doing it in a way that really speaks to who you are and what you appreciate. And then when I'm, talking about opportunities for your own growth, really talking about things that speak to you and the things you'd like to become. We've talked before about the red thread and really finding that red thread in your role. And that's something that I talk about quarterly with my teammates. So it's really about that personal interaction, not just production. And for me, that's really important.
Amazing. Tarah, I feel like I could talk to you for another hour and a half about all this stuff. This was really, really cool. Thanks for coming on the show. You were the first teammate to ever give me advice about the show that wasn't part of the marketing department. So that was an amazing piece of feedback that I really, really appreciate. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hannah, kill it, girl.
Let's go, Hannah. Hannah,
Hey.
you're the closer, right? Yeah, correct. Usually people think of closers as salespeople or whatnot. I'm like the opposite of a closer, right? Like I've always said that I'm a world-class opener and a very mediocre closer in many different ways. And I'm reframing that in my head, but it makes me really curious to how your brain works in order to be able to take things over the finish line. So I would love to just kick it off with what is the key to success in what you do?
Yeah. First off, thanks for inviting me. I so appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I think that a lot of success in my role comes from communication. Just really making sure that that is the highlight of everything that I do, because I'm working with so many people for one common goal. So whether that's the lender, the processor underneath the lender, the title company, the insurance team, the client buying the home, the person that's 77 states away from me trying to close on a property that they've never seen, I have to be their eyes and their ears and make sure that they know what's happening on the inside out. They only see, you know, some emails that are generated from the lending team, but I really need to be their person that says, this is what's happening. This is how we're going to get to the end goal. And, you know, there's always going to be obstacles in whatever we do in life. And I think that just having the mentality of creativity, knowing that I have an entire team behind me that has done this before, just like Tarah said, I mean, she did this 9 years ago when it was a role back then, and we kind of re-upped it here in February, which I've been so lucky to get the opportunity to take on. And just having the creative mindset of this is our end goal, and I want to close, the client wants to close, our team wants to close, everybody wants it. How can I get to that end goal? And really just finding ways to get there.
I love it. I love it. I mean, it's funny because you started off with the word communication, which I immediately go to, right? Like, I do think that communication is like the building block of, you know, relationships, which I think is what drives business. But what you just described is strategy, right? Like you described one part strategy of understanding where you need to get to, the organization of, you know, understanding what the different things, the short-term things that need to happen, keeping track of all of it and keeping everybody on the same page with it, which is like an extraordinary complex thing. How did you arrive on the word communication as the center point of all of that? Like, how did you figure out that that was the thing?
So I think it kind of goes back to something that you mentioned, relationships. And so this is kind of getting into one of your other questions, but where I come from is public relations, and I went to school for communication. So it's always been a huge piece of my heart and how I really am able to hold on to relationships and keep them going. You know, whether that's with family, you know, or other relationships. I mean, it's the pivotal piece that keeps everybody, like you said, on the same page. And I think that no matter what, you're always going to be in a position where developing a relationship is never going to put you in a bad spot. It's only going to help any situation. So I'm a huge advocate for over communicating. I really think that it's the key to success. And I think that the more that I'm able to give somebody that reassurance that this is happening, and even if this isn't happening, I'm going to tell you why it's not happening. I'm going to tell you when I think it might happen, and I'll tell you who's going to be working on it so that you know that something is in the works, and if it's not in the works, you know when to expect that. So I think just setting clear expectations, making sure that folks understand what's to come, and being that spokesperson and eyes and ears is just so important.
Yes. That's awesome. So Rosalind says, love that, Hannah. Totally agree. You got me super pumped up because this is everything that I believe in as well. What was the other question that you thought that related to this? How'd you get to this role? Is that?
Yeah.
Take it over. Come on. You know how to communicate.
So I was talking to Pablo before the show, and I've been in Jacksonville for 7 years now, which seems like it's been a flash of time, just going so quick now. I came here to go to UNF, and I went to school for communication because I felt that was something that I was super passionate about. And I started doing public relations, which was certainly what I thought I wanted to do out of college. And I did work on that for some time. And it's funny that you mentioned that Maddison's doing writing for the business journal, because that's actually how I started hearing about JWV. I was doing PR for a company, and I started working really closely with the Jacksonville Business Journal. And I got really close to the folks that would put on the events like Best Places to Work and all of these really big, highly praised, you know, companies that come together for a little happy hour, what have you. And, you know, being in the room of just greatness that Jacksonville has to offer. And what do you know, JWV is on all those lists like every single time. So naturally, it was just repetition. I'm seeing JWV everywhere. And I was talking, you know, with this gentleman that I worked with at the Business Journal, and he couldn't talk more highly of JWB. And I was always kind of serving tables on the side, which kind of relates to a lot of what I have to do in my role, surprisingly. But all of that to say that I had heard about JWB 10 million times. I had to apply. Like, I just felt like a calling almost. And when I applied, Laura McLogan wasn't hiring at the moment. It was COVID, I got to admit. But then 2 weeks later, they told me they were hiring. I got to interview, and like Tarah said, I mean, I knew absolutely nothing about real estate. I thought that it was gibberish my first 2 weeks, and now I feel like I'm, you know, able to confidently guide folks in the right direction to purchase, invest in the Jacksonville market, and it's been an absolute whirlwind and a blessing.
Interesting. So you had the wherewithal to apply to a company, what role did you apply for?
Portfolio management. I was actually given the opportunity to apply for property management or portfolio management. And after looking over the two, I think that portfolio management really appealed to my need and desire and love for communication and kind of morphing, you know, sales, if you will, from my server life. So it was a great spot for me to land. And I applied for portfolio management and was in that role for about 1.5 years before I transitioned.
That's super interesting to me that you have the wherewithal to say, instead of, you know, most people, I feel like, look for the role and then they look for the company, right? Like they're looking for specific roles. And it reminds me of kind of what we preach on the show. It's like most people look for properties instead of looking for the team first. So that parallel is fascinating to me. And the idea that you're just like, I want to be on a world-class team and I'm going to go apply for the role that most fits, I think is really, really intelligent. Did anybody tell you were crazy?
So I think that nobody told me I was crazy. Thankfully, I would have not been nice back to them. But what drew me to this, just to get a little more granular, is I was a server at the Cheesecake Factory, which was a huge team. And I'm somebody that I take a lot of pride in what I do and where I'm working. And it's really important for me to resonate with the team that I'm working on and the folks and the family that I'm working around, because like I mentioned to you, I mean, I moved to Jacksonville 7 years ago. I don't really have family here, so I resonate a lot with the folks that I'm spending all my time with. So I was working at the Cheesecake Factory, which to me was like an incredible company. I felt pride in saying, you know, I work for this team, and I wanted to find that in a professional setting. So that's exactly what I was going for. I was trying to find a team where I knew I would resonate well with their common goal and the folks that are already on the team, to kind of find another family.
Awesome. So how does you said that being a server strangely prepared you for what you're doing now? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody has any experience in it. It's insane. It's one of those things that you very much often have to be thinking on your feet. You know, things are going to go wrong almost every 30 minutes. And it's a lot of troubleshooting. It's a lot of making sure that you can kind of be your own time manager. And I think about my interview often. I explained it to them as, it's really like running your own business. So I have my set of my tables and I run it the way I would like it to be done. And kind of like Maddison was alluding to, failing forward, I mean, they give us the opportunity here to be able to run our own role the way that we'd like, until there is a moment where, you know, hey, this isn't going well. How can we find an opportunity to resolve what's not going great? And they're going to give us that freedom and that really trust to navigate all of our clients to a great, you know, place. And I think that is a lot of how serving transitioned me into this role, because I had so much freedom. I had so much trust from my team to run things the way that we see fit.
Interesting. Lee Bishop, which you may or may not know, is the MVP of this community.
Haley.
He's putting in here, I am thrilled that Hannah started out in public relations, and that means communication is key to success. Client relations starts with great customer service, and closing is the center of all success at JWB. Agreed, Lee. Agreed. So far, so good, man. Hannah, have you had did you have any moments where you overcame some obstacles on the way to where you're at? Any particular growth moments?
Maybe like 10 or 20, I don't know, handful. The one that really sticks out to me is as honestly what I'm going through right now. you know, Tarah did this 9 years ago. That was 9 years ago. There's probably a cheat sheet in a Google spreadsheet somewhere that we now can't find. But, you know, in February, previous to then, every portfolio manager was doing closings for their respective clients. And while nothing was going wrong, we just saw an opportunity to really say, how can we make this a better process and make there kind of be a one-stop shop for this process, and then have a little bit of more different approach to the closing aspect of things. So they pitched, you know, having a closing coordinator and having one person doing that. And I'm not gonna lie, I was gunning for that, and I was so happy that that's something that they offered to me. I feel a lot of trust that they've given me this opportunity, but no doubt about it, it's kind of one of those pioneering opportunities. I mean, it's pretty much brand new right now, and it's brand new to our team. So I have a lot of trust, but I have a lot of, you know, times where I'm like, I don't know what to do next, and I don't know where I should bring this role, but I'm really given the reins right now to make it what I think it needs to be, and make it mold to what JWB, you know, needs for the business are as well. So it's a really exciting time. It's a really troubling time for me. I like a nice clear line and direction, but that's why it's a good challenge for me, because I think Maddison said it too. Like, I mean, oh no, it was Tarah. She said that she didn't think that she was up for challenges, and then she found out that that's what she needed, and that is what she wanted. And I think I'm kind of at the same place right now of just accepting that, growing through the change and embracing what's next to come.
Love that, man. That is quintessential entrepreneurship, right? Like they're allowing you to set up your own thing. This is great.
Seriously, it's priceless.
Yeah, amazing. All right, Kate, you're coming up next. Hannah, what is right now as you're doing this entrepreneurship thing and you know, stepping on the ledge, right? What's working for you? What are you kind of like holding on to, or what are you learning about that is helping you through this?
Yeah, well, I work under Lauren. She's an absolute dynamite manager to have. She's a insane wealth of knowledge. She can spew out real estate real estate knowledge from every hole. She's amazing. And I think that what is going well is that like I said, I work really well with other people because I communicate, but when I communicate with myself and I communicate with others, it's really easy to track everything. Whereas before it was like kind of finding what every single person was doing and tracking a ton of other items. But things that aren't going well and probably need improvement. We do post closing calls, and we always grab feedback from the folks that have just closed out. So a lot of things that we're hearing are like, you know, maybe lenders aren't as communicative as people would like, and just places where we can talk through external teammates and how they can improve the experience, because we truly want everybody to be an extension of JWB and our rockstar team. So just kind of going with the punches, but everything's been going really well so far.
Love it, man. I have so many talks with Greg about like the vulnerability of the closing process, right? Because you're dealing with lenders, it's a tough time. And the fact that they put all the trust on, you know, like this, like big joint on you. I'm not surprised, because you were clearly awesome and you just crushed it. Thank you so much.
Oh,
This was
appreciate
really
it.
cool.
Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, awesome. Kate, this is something I have been looking forward to for the last 2.5 years that we've been doing the show. I can't believe you haven't been on.
I was just sitting here thinking about, first of all, I love that I got to go last, because I could sit here and listen to those ladies all day long. So that was an honor in itself. But I was thinking about it. I have not done this in so long, and goodness me, Pablo, the last time I did, it was Greg and it was a mess. I mean, the way that this whole thing has started to be a part of what it is right now, I cannot even explain this feeling that I'm feeling right now. Holy cow.
Say more, Kate. Say more. What are you talking about?
I mean, goodness, you think about it, you know, you mentioned when we first met, which was what, 2.5 years ago?
December 2019.
Yeah. Just where we were and this vision. I mean, when I came on board, so similar to Tarah's story, zero background in real estate. I was an education teacher. I taught kindergarten, I taught 5th grade, I taught 1st grade, I taught elementary school, and I loved it. Ultimately wasn't going to be the best long-term fit for me. And I found my way here eventually. And I remember, similar to Tarah, I interviewed for Greg's executive assistant position, and I didn't know what that meant. You know, an executive assistant can mean a lot of different things. So wasn't exactly sure. And I remember in our shadow interview, so we have 3 interviews, and in the shadow, part of the shadow interview where I got to come into office and actually like live a day in the life of this role, Greg had me researching ideas for a studio. And I was like, I don't know why he would need a studio. I went home and I told my husband, I was like, I'm not quite sure what he's doing. And these people sell turnkey rental properties. And Dave was like, turkeys. And I was like, no, I don't think they're turkeys, like turnkey. So it was just a wild mess. And from the beginning though, now 3.5 years ago, this has been a dream, right? And we were researching ways to do a studio and to go on Facebook Live. And it was a running joke around the office that I'd be running after Greg with my phone, and we were out on the golf course trying to film 9 on 9, so many iterations of this. And then we met you, Pablo, and it was like, we finally had focus in our charrette, and we were able to come together and just determine our pillars of content and all these really exciting things. And it's grown from there, but holy cow, what a journey it has been.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool to hear. Cause I've
So
always, you know, like I'm from the moment I met you, I've always just been super impressed at how like sharp and focused and how much you're able to get stuff done. And the idea that, you know, you were coming in, not knowing anything and applying for an executive assistant position when I've always seen you as like a CMO, right? It's pretty interesting that it led you there. And I'm seeing this like vein of JWB. I've known JWB hires athletes for a long time, which I believe you're an athlete as well. And right.
I will take that as a compliment.
You'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I'm a great swimmer.
You're a good swimmer, yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm hearing that they hire a lot of teachers, right? And then I'm also hearing that they've hired servers, and this kind of like personality type that is built to serve and built to problem solve on their feet is becoming really, really clear to me. So when you were thinking about getting into, you know, when you were learning about real estate and kind of what was your education like of figuring out what you're up to here?
Yeah, I mean, throughout the whole process, like I said, I started in the executive assistant role, and what that looked like at the time was a combination of things. So like you mentioned, I was on the sales side. So I got to start delivering, and this was another part of my shadow interview, was to get on the phone with folks that had filled out our lead form and just start telling them about our company. And I had a script, and in my head, I just went with it. And I remember afterwards talking to Greg about it, and I was so convinced that he just had me calling teammates just to see how I would do. Like, of course I wasn't actually calling new leads. And he's like, no, those were actual calls that you just had. I was like, are you kidding me? But it just started like that. So I was kind of engulfed in it from the very beginning. And I think that, you know, going back to my background, especially in education, it is being able to step back and see the big picture and see the intention and the why behind everything. And that is what stuck out to me from the beginning, right? It is seeing how we are a cohesive unit and how we are all in such different roles, yet such similar roles at the same time, and how much we depend on each other. And those are the qualities that make us all love doing what we do, right? It's not necessarily about the marketing aspect of things or the maintenance side of things. It's the fact that we're getting to make differences in people's lives and do it as a cohesive team. And that is just something you don't find in other places. So when I come on board, I was doing some sales stuff. I was doing some marketing things with Greg and some content creation. And I was really able to fall in love with the marketing aspect of things and really the operational side of things, how things work and how the pieces are going to come together to make everything better for our team, to be able to communicate with folks and nurture leads and bring people back into the system, but also for the lead itself, right? Like what is that process going to look like? How are they going to be in the know and receive our communication? And so I just have been enamored with all of that and love that. And the show obviously is an extension of a way that we've been able to do that. So it wasn't real estate, you know, that's the one thing I didn't really hit on there, is it wasn't like, oh, how cool is it to get into the Jacksonville real estate game here? I was new to the area. Yeah, almost my entire life in Jacksonville has been with JWB. It was truly about the team and the culture and the intention behind every decision that we make.
That's so awesome. And I love hearing that journey and hearing you fall in love with operations. And like I've been saying it for a while. I'm like, you're like this like world-class RevOps person because you've been deep into the marketing and sales part while developing the operation around it. Right. So like in big tech, to me, that's like a super valuable position. And you've just been crushing it from day one. I can't help but think about applying for a position as an executive assistant and getting put on a sales call on day one. That's nuts.
I didn't even apply. That's the role I got hired as. I applied for a construction admin job. And I had my first interview. So I've kind of mentioned the interview process a couple of times here. And I think it goes back to the intention that we have with every decision, right? We have 3 interviews. It's a lengthy, long interview process where we have kind of the role specific interview first with 2 teammates, and then 2 separate teammates interview you for just a culture interview, just to see, like Tarah said, what fills your love bucket? Like, who are you on the team? Tell us more about yourself. And then it's the shadow interview to come in and live a day in the life of. And I applied for the construction admin. I love admin positions because you get to kind of see, you know, behind the scenes of how all of the things work. And so that's what drew me here. And then in my first interview, I interviewed with Laura and Mel, who is the director of our property management and leasing. And you talk about 2 badass role models where I just sat in this room that I'm in right now, which is crazy to think about too. And I walked away from that. I didn't care what the role was, but I had to be a part of this. And it's grown into something incredibly amazing. But, you know, we talk a lot about surrounding yourself with mentors, and we look around every single day. I mean, the 3 ladies that I'm joined with today, like, we're all each other's mentors, and it's just so cool.
It is cool. That's awesome. Danny Davies has a question. Speaking of mentors, now that the company is massive, how much access, how often are you able to dialogue and receive mentoring from the big 4, which I'm assuming is the 4 partners?
The big 4. Oh goodness. You know what's pretty wild is I have the honor of being on the mentor team here, where, you know, anybody that's a new hire, we get to go out to lunch together and things like that. And that is probably one of the things that I hear the most often from our new teammates is, I just had lunch with one of the owners and I didn't even realize it was an owner. Or, I can't believe that you guys don't have offices here. The owners just come in and they sit next to us and they pop around to different desks and they're in the day-to-day and they're presenting to the team. And I mean, they are true teammates. There is zero feel here of, oh goodness, that there goes the big 4, right? Or was that one of them? I don't know. We know these guys. These guys are our teammates. They share the vision, but then they let us implement. You know, it's so much more of them just saying, hey, this is what we're about to do, go do it. It is putting the power in our hands to really figure out how our teams are best performing, and the things that they do, right? The business planning that they have once a year, and the quarterly manager meetings that we have with all of our managers and supervisors. That's our team generating ideas and coming up with ways to help this business run more effectively, efficiently, help our culture grow. And they allow us to have that say instead of it just feeling like orders coming from above. So in no way is there a separation between the 4 guys and the rest of the team. They're just our teammates.
It's pretty remarkable, right? Like, it's something that I've profoundly learned from them as well. Like the way that they talk about the team and the way that they put the team as everybody on equals. Like I've never heard them say anything other than teammates, anything other than the team is first. I remember one time I was on the way back from a run with Greg and he's like, oh yeah, this is my friend. I forgot the guy's name. It was the guy. So is the guy that drives Alex's wife to work a couple of times a week. And he's like, oh, this is my friend. And I'm like, man, this is such a amazing, huh?
Was it Dan?
No. That's Alex. That's Alex's driver. I'm talking about Alex, Greg's wife.
Oh, she's right.
Yeah, right. The guy loves Alex partnerships.
Yeah.
But yeah, that everybody on the same pedestal is something that wasn't natural to me as the way that I was raised, to be perfectly honest. And it's something that it's clear how much it's bought into and how enabling it is for everybody to really step up and deliver. I think that's great that you called that out. I love that. Lee's got a question that I've always been curious about. I think you're uniquely qualified to answer this, but does the content or message from the Not Your Average, actually, you know what? Let's bring everybody on, but I'll give you a first crack at this.
Yeah.
Does the content or message from the Not Your Average Investor Show get passed on to the staff so that they're prepared for questions from investors?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. And I'm sure if Greg is listening right now too, his little heart is just exploding with love. Yes, it absolutely does. We have the show go live. We take this information, we put it into playlists to use as resources for our team. We take it as recordings and trainings for new hires to come on board, all of the quarterly updates. It is extremely beneficial for our team to be able to consume this content as well. I mean, I learn something every single time that I watch it, and I'm in there with you, Pablo, you know, when we're coming up with the ideas for the year. So it's extremely beneficial for the team to be able to speak the same language. We actually have started just recently doing live recordings where the team gets to come in and be a part of the show, right? So we can record it in the TMM room and have the teammates there ask questions, feel like they're a part of it too, because that's one of the biggest things I hope that we can always continue to portray on the show, is that it is the entire team that allows this to work, right? It is not one department. It is not one property. It is not right now today's appreciation rate. It is the team. And the more that we can get the team involved with it, the more we can do shows like we're doing today, the better.
Yeah. Tarah, do you have any take on that, since you were the first one to ever give like data back from the team, how that's evolved from the way that you see it being distributed to the team?
Well, it's interesting. I think when we first talked about a podcast and stuff, we all kind of like, don't we do enough sharing data? And we do, you know, with our clients and stuff, but it's been really cool to watch the message change and grow, and the amount of information and knowledge that we've been able to share, whether it's JWB based or different type of investment based. It's been really cool. But for the team, it's really awesome because I know a lot of us leaders use the podcast for training, like Kate said. I actually, my operations admin, Tanner, we are actually doing a deep dive on all of the podcasts. And so we're going through, and every week we talk about it and have, you know, talk about questions. I actually, from one of the shows, bought Dennis Shapiro's The Alternative Investment.
Let's go.
With one of my other teammates, Ashley, we're going through that together. And so it's been an opportunity for us to grow ourselves both professionally and personally.
Man, that fills my bucket. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hannah, Ken had asked a question in here that you answered on the chat, but I think it'd be great if you answer it for everybody. He asked, please describe how you interact with lending managers in affecting a positive closing experience.
Yeah. So essentially what I do is I connect them on a weekly basis. If we ever do end up getting feedback that there wasn't a positive experience, I'm certainly having that conversation with the lending team of like, hey, you know, was this a one-off situation? How can we make this not happen once again? And, you know, if it truly is like something that could affect their team long-term, then we're likely going to have a conversation that, you know, may end up that they may not get the ability to serve our clients furthermore, because we, like I mentioned before, every external teammate that we work with has to be a true reflection of JWB and what we represent and want to do for our clients. So just keeping a really open line of communication, over communicating with each other. And I think he was specifically asking, like, how did I get his property to successfully close? And it was really just that, Ken. I talk with Teresa on a very personal basis. We are really close. She's an incredible human being and lender. She did a huge favor for me yesterday, and I can call her at any point in time and say, hey, what is going on here? Why is this taking longer than usual? What is your usual like work around here? And how can we make that happen sooner rather than later?
Awesome. Awesome. Great. I wanted to open up for everybody. Denny's got a question that we would love to hear from. You know, I'm not going to open up to these ladies because this is what we're trying to solve for every day. We need some new advice. Denny's asking, we have a consistent 35 to 60 members on the Not Your Average Investor Show. From your perspective, how do we grow this platform to 100 to 200 members and beyond? Yes, please. If you are not part of the Facebook group, go to jwbfacebookgroup.com. Let us know in there. I mean, we are constantly mining for those data points that can help us grow this. I think the easiest thing to do is that you tell somebody about this, right? Like go to the podcast and leave a rating, go to the YouTube channel and like subscribe to it, right? Like that is how the algorithms work to get it out to other people. But the thing that works best is if you literally grab one of these podcasts, grab one of these YouTube things, and you text it to someone and say, I learned this one thing, and I think that it would be good for you. And by the way, come on Tuesdays and Thursdays because it's awesome. So Denny, that's a really, really great question. And I would love to get our community involved in spreading the good word and bringing in some more friends. And last but not least, Kate, I didn't get to give you a send off because we went into Q&A, but just on a really, really personal level, I mean, I know I probably surprised you by telling you you're one of my favorite people I've ever worked with, but 100% true. Like it has been such a amazing journey to kind of like go through this over the last 2.5 years with you, like see you grow as a professional, see you become a mom, a manager, like all these different things. Like it's really been a really, really special experience. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that and really be grateful about it.
Thank you, Paulo. That means the most. I'd say you more than anybody taught me that everybody has a superpower, and we are in a position where we get to put people into their superpower positions and give them the right capes, and we all get to see you in yours too. So it's been so fun.
My bucket overfloweth. Thank you. That's an amazing, amazing compliment. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you all for being here with us today. We had 30 plus people here throughout the show. Absolute testament to the value that you ladies have brought to this amazing conversation. Great to look behind the curtains and see the super team and see the superwoman in JWB that are running the show. And like really just, I don't think people realize that talent is the #1 differentiator for success of a company. And if you're not building a talent destination, you're really missing out. And the idea that 4 dudes could just kind of like build this like real estate operation in Jacksonville, Florida, and attract such high level talent that has now become a flywheel onto its own, I think is a remarkable story. And I love talking about it. I hope that you all join us next week, where we are bringing in, you know what, I kind of forgot his name, but this like super, I'm just checking it out right now. It is, okay, we got it. You know what? Nathaniel Dodson. He is a lawyer that specializes in crowdfunding and, crowdfunding of all types, but we're going to talk specifically about how we turn rental property investing into this like asset that like smaller players can play into, right? Like democratize this asset class that we all love. Super cool guy. Just got back from like a month-long trip to Europe where he like remarried his wife again and then had like a whole honeymoon with all his really, really cool guy. It's going to be awesome. And I hope that you join us. If you were listening on the podcast, watching on YouTube, go to nyais.com. Just show up live for one of these things. Get a nickname. Meet Maddison the Magnificent. Be a part of this movement that we have going on. And I really, really appreciate you ladies for taking time, raising your hand, right? Moment of growth, right? Like I know that this is not easy, and you really did it. So if you can just kind of say goodbye to everybody all at once.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you.
All right. If you want to attract amazing people, you just can't be average. I'll see you next week.